5 Philosophies for Building Projects People Can't Forget by My First Million, 67 Minutes. Shaquille O'Neal, Gerard Peak, and 17 billionaires are about to sleep in bunk beds at a basketball camp run by 2 podcast hosts. The event costs a couple $100,000 out of pocket, charges attendees nothing, and has become so oversubscribed that for every person who said yes, 20 said no. The 5 principles behind it apply to every project you will ever build. Section 1. Irritation is your best business partner. Sam Parr opens with a deceptively simple framework that launched the entire event. He and co-host Ben Francis hated conferences. Networking events felt generic, predictable, and soul-draining despite Sam actually being an introvert who dislikes going to events. The instinct most people have is to avoid the things that bother them. Sam took the opposite approach. Irritation leads to innovation. A mentor told him during his first business, a food delivery company. The idea is not to flee from what annoys you but to sit with it and ask what version of this would not suck. You take the brainstorm seriously, and maybe 1 out of 10 times you come up with something genuinely interesting. For the event, that meant combining 2 things they genuinely loved, meeting fascinating business people and playing basketball, into something that existed nowhere else. Instead of icebreakers, you play basketball all day with an NBA trainer. Instead of networking cocktails, you talk shop at night in shared houses. The concept sounds absurd on paper, a basketball fantasy camp for billionaires, but that absurdity is what makes it work. The event is now in its 4th year, and the guest list includes Shaq, Mr. Beast, Gerard Peak, the richest man in New Zealand, Scooter Braun, the founder of Savannah Bananas, and 4 NBA team owners. Sam is genuinely worried this year that they may have screwed it up by inviting too many big-name people, who are used to being the center of attention, rather than being a fun hang. Section 2. The yes test will save you from your own ambition. As you get older and more successful, Sam explains, you transition from opportunity scarce to opportunity abundant. When you are young, you say yes to everything because you have nothing. Coffee with a stranger, yes. Speak at a random event, yes. But eventually your calendar fills up and you have to practice saying no. Sam's filter is what he calls the yes test. Would I do this thing for no money or while losing money? The best projects of his life have all passed this test. The podcast started with a Google Doc stating that probably nobody would listen, and he would lose $10,000 in production costs, but he would get 50 interesting conversations with fascinating people. That was worth the loss on its own. The basketball camp costs a couple $100,000 out of pocket with 0 revenue. But it has to be good enough that losing that money still feels worth it. This creates a powerful forcing function. If you are willing to take a financial loss, then the intangible benefits, the connections, the core memories, the brand building, have to be extraordinary. The yes test also sorts your projects into what Sam calls win-lose versus win-win. Win-lose means you only feel good if you get the specific result you wanted. Win-win means the baseline outcome is already good, and the upside is just a bonus. His 2 options with the podcast were I win small or I win big. That is a much better bet than I win or I lose. Section 3. The bigger you go, the easier it gets. There is a common fallacy that going for smaller, more reasonable goals is easier. Sam argues the exact opposite. When you are doing something that needs differentiation, thinking smaller makes you less interesting and less distinctive, which actually makes everything harder. Take the event. If it were a generic meetup with people nobody had heard of, every part of the operation would be harder. Harder to get new guests because there is nothing special about attending. Harder to generate excitement. Harder to create word of mouth. But because they aimed at the most interesting people with one name recognition and created a truly unique format, each success compounds. Getting Shaq makes it easier to get the next celebrity. Getting 17 billionaires makes it easier to get the 18th. The same applies to business. The bigger your idea, the better people you can recruit. The better people you recruit, the easier it becomes to execute the big idea. It is a virtuous cycle that only starts when you are willing to aim unreasonably high. Ben got Shaq through a cold request by discovering he was an early investor in Ring Doorbell and asking the Ring founder for an introduction. The Airbnb founder came because Ben cold emailed him, mentioning they were both former NBA ball boys. For every person who said yes, there were 20 who said no. But you only need the hits. Section 4. Everybody is a little kid. No matter how rich or powerful someone is, they are still a child who gets excited by small, thoughtful gestures. Last year, the group rented a stadium for the final tournament game. When attendees walked in, they found custom jerseys printed with their names. Billionaires who could buy literally anything were giddy like children. Sam obsesses over these moments between the big moments. This year, after morning basketball sessions, attendees will return to the house and already see photos and videos from that morning playing on the TV screens. After the championship game, winners go to a locker room set up with champagne and ski goggles like an actual championship celebration. After the entire event, Sam spent a week creating a custom magazine for each attendee, designed like a Slam magazine cover with their photos. This level of detail is unusual for Sam, who admits he is normally not a details person, but his philosophy is to pick and choose the few areas in life where good enough is not good enough. Excellence requires selecting your battles. You cannot go all out on everything, but the things you choose to obsess over, people will feel it. They will know you went beyond what was expected. Section 5. The product is you pushed out. Sam's trainer gave him career advice that stuck. You are the product. The product is just you pushed out. The podcast works because Sam and his co-host are just being themselves with the volume turned up. They do not perform or act or strategize about how to come across. The basketball camp works because it is literally Sam's two obsessions, basketball and meeting interesting people, turned into a physical experience. This principle has a shadow side. Sam admits that in earlier companies, insecurity led him to build things misaligned with who he was. He chased market potential over personal interest and ended up building a live streaming app for Twitch gamers despite never playing video games or watching Twitch. The napkin math looked great, but the experience was miserable. He describes it as building your own prison, making small compromises driven by fear of failure, until you end up somewhere unrecognizable. The dialectic Sam identifies is between being a missionary, driven by passion and purpose, and being a mercenary driven by commercial success. Both paths can work. You can make money by compromising your values, but it is a win-lose bet. The missionary path, building what genuinely excites you, is win-win. Even if it fails commercially, you still got the experience you wanted. Sam points to James Dyson and Brian Chesky of Airbnb as examples of people who started as missionaries and never bent, and argues they ended up far more successful than if they had compromised. Disney said it best: "We do not make movies to make money. We make money so we can make great movies." Section 6. The soul of Nike was a runner who died at 24. Sam closes with the story of Steve Prefontaine, the runner who became the spiritual foundation of Nike. Bill Bowerman, who co-founded Nike, was a methodical, scientific track coach at the University of Oregon who invented the waffle sole by pouring liquid rubber into his wife's waffle iron. He also literally popularized jogging in America, a concept so foreign in the 1960s that newspapers wrote about it as a strange phenomenon taking over the suburbs. Steve Prefontaine was Bowerman's opposite, emotional, reckless punk rock. His famous quote, "To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift." While Bowerman preached efficiency and winning with minimal effort, Prefontaine ran every race from start to finish as hard as he could, front-running when it was tactically foolish because he wanted to find out who has the most guts, not just who is fastest. He got fourth in the 1972 Olympics by burning out from leading too aggressively, and died in a car crash at 24. Phil Knight, the other Nike co-founder, has said that even though Michael Jordan made Nike famous, Steve Prefontaine was the soul of Nike. Everything the brand represents, fierce independence, maximum effort, competitive fire, was taken from Prefontaine and turned into a company identity. The lesson Sam draws is about branding that transcends its domain. Prefontaine's attitude makes people who care nothing about running want to buy his shirt. Some personality types and attributes supersede any sport, genre, or niche. If you can capture that energy in a product, you have something that people cannot forget. Key takeaways. Irritation leads to innovation. Instead of avoiding things that bother you, ask what a version that does not suck would look like. Apply the yes test. The best projects are ones you would do for free or while losing money. The bigger you aim, the easier it gets. Aiming small makes you less differentiated, which makes everything harder. Treat everyone like a kid. Small, thoughtful details between the big moments are what people actually remember. The product is you pushed out. Build from genuine interest, not napkin math. Compromising your values can work commercially, but leads to building your own prison.